So welcome back, everybody, to Leading Through Growth, the podcast where we explore what it takes to lead at the intersection of purpose, progress, and people. I'm your host, Tom Campbell, CEO of Stella Nova Coaching, and today's guest is Robin Appia, the CEO of Educology Solutions, a fast-growing technology firm that's built a reputation for being both results-driven and deeply human. Robin leads with a unique blend of grit, humility, and hands-on leadership. And in today's conversation, we're going to explore what it means to build culture from the inside out, especially when your team is physically scattered across contracts as well as time zones. Welcome, Robin. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Can you talk about when things get tough in your organization, what part of your leadership instinct do you lean on first?
Well, when things get tough, I found it's necessary to sit back and really listen, right? Sometimes you want to jump in and try to solve things, and sometimes you really don't even understand the total problem or the total situation or the issue that's going on. So I found for me, it's best to sit back first and listen. And then also get input from everybody that's it's affecting, right? I want to make sure I know, one person's side, this person's side, the customer's side. And I feel like when I get all the information, a lot of times, you get the whole helicopter view, so you can actually see what really needs to be addressed and what really needs, because a lot of people take things very personal. Right. In their own view, right? So I have to be the one that knows how to bring everyone's, thought process, everyone's feelings, everyone's things together. And I think that works best for me.
And that approach is very much an acknowledgement of the fact that everybody is a person, right? Everybody's a human being. We're not robots. We're not coming to work.
Right.
Right.
Right. Even though we put our pants on the same way, we're very different, right?
Well, it is. Is that something you had to learn, that approach, or is it something that sort of came naturally to you?
I think I had to learn it. I know I had to learn it, right? I always think that everyone knows everything, we do things well. But one thing, I actually had a coach. Coach helped me to understand that, sometimes you think you see things and when you're seeing it's just out of your own eyes. But when you are the leadership, the executive, you have to know that your way is not the right way. Your way is not just the perfect way. That you really do have to learn how to come out of the situation and see the whole picture, and not me take it personally, because there were times where I would take things personally.
Sure.
And the more people you get, the more staff. You got to realize it's not. Even though you're the CEO and owner, it's not just your way.
What?
I know. That's what I told her. What? Are you kidding me?
No, this is my baby.
I know, right? Right? Exactly. I put my neck on the line, but no, it really it helped out a lot. The coaching actually really helped out a lot.
Well, that's great. That's great. At what point in your leadership journey did you have a coach?
When COVID hit and we all began to work remotely, as great as it sounds that everyone, I'm at home, I can do everything else. I think when you have a company where you're not just a coder sitting behind your desk, but you have to work within people, we started to become very tunnel vision, and this is my lane only. And I think that's where we started kind of coming apart a little bit, and we needed that coaching to realize that now that you're remote, you still have to find a way to communicate, work together, talk together, and make things happen. And to know that when I don't see you eye to eye, I still feel that emotion maybe, or thing that's occurring in your voice of what's happening, how it's impacting you.
Right. And that to me is a real, again, an acknowledgement that human beings are the ones doing the work.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And we tend to think of business sometimes as transactional, right?
You
get a contract. The client wants you to do X, you do X, they pay you money. Very transactional.
Right. That's transactional.
But it's the relational piece that makes the transactional possible.
That makes a difference. Yeah, that makes a difference, right.
Yeah.
Right. Just like even acquiring business. You can write a proposal, you can do those things, but networking, relationship building, that's essential.
Right.
That's essential. So it's the humanistic part that kind of can also help you to get where you need to get as far as even your employees.
I love that. Because that's every piece of your business, right? It's from business development to contract management
Right,
to
right.
contract
Actual
fulfillment.
execution. Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, that's really,
Exactly.
that's great. Um, we talked a little bit about in our pre-call building culture, and you talked about the fact that this was your organization.
Right.
it was you were the organization until you
Right, right.
started
I was,
hiring
yeah.
people, right?
Spin off and it's just me first, right? Exactly.
And so you were the culture. Your personality was the culture when you
Right.
started, but now you've got a team that contributes to the culture. How do you balance setting that sort of cultural tone between directing it and sort of letting the team take the lead?
Well, for us, I think like because we are back in the office somewhat, a couple days a week, not all full time, and even when we're not, I try to make sure I have constant meetings, at least once a week, with my leadership team, right? Because it flows downward. Okay, so they, even though they're different people, they know my views and my goals. And when I hire, I don't get someone that looks just like me or is just like me, but they add to what I have, right? They
Right.
complement to what I have. And so when we meet, we talk about the different things that are going on with their employees, and we talk about how to handle them, how to manage those things. And I think that really helps us keep us in the same, the same views, the same purpose, our same goals. So I think that's really how I do it. I make sure I haven't gotten that big, unfortunately, where I'm just up here and I let them do what they want. We still meet, regularly once a week, and then we even have our own side meetings, so maybe just one manager at a time. So that
Right.
really helps. That really helps.
Tell me, remind me, how big is Educology Solutions?
We have about 85 people now, employees, 85.
Okay. And they are spread across
All
multiple
over.
contracts, right? And
Right,
physically
right.
spread.
And
Some of
physically
them are on
spread,
site,
yes.
some of them are working from
East
home.
Coast, West Coast, right, exactly.
That is a real challenge.
Yeah, it's very challenging because, especially because we were home, and they feel like, oh, I'm doing my work, and they want to know too. One thing I want to make people know that even though you are working on a particular contract, you still work for ESI, Educology Solutions,
Right.
right? So we try to do things. We put things in place like we have newsletters that we try to do quarterly, and the newsletters are not just about what ESI is doing. Like for Mother's Day, we had all the mothers that they wanted to. They could write in and send a picture of them and their
Wow.
families with their kids, display why they love being a mother, to let them know that ESI is you. You are our, company. So it's not just always, that woman wears my face on the cover. It's all about, we give them training. So if someone successfully gets a certification, we, acknowledge that. Birthdays, these things that make us human,
Right.
to know that it's more than just, okay, did you code that for me or did you write that document? We care about things, right? Yeah.
Well, and I think and again, I give you a lot of credit because as the CEO and as the founder, it is a real challenge to let go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely hard. Yeah, it's definitely hard, especially because I started out being, well, developer techie. Then I became tech lead and then program manager and all these. So you're really very hands on. And once you rise to be a CEO, you really have to know how to step off the court basically and become the coach.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so and your people trust you, what they say, what you do, but they, and I lead by example. I try to, when we're short a man, I try to step in and help out where I can. I mean, that's what I feel like you have to do, and to let them know,
Yeah.
that I'm here to support you.
It, can you think of a time when your team um, did something that surprised you, that took a project in a direction or made a decision that really surprised you or really impressed you in that way?
Well, a lot of the things are obviously we know basically contract supporting. So sometimes we have a contract where we had to be 24/7 support, right? And I think that one time one organization where the system went down, and we actually literally had to work 24 hours to get this
Wow.
back up and running. And it didn't I don't want to say surprise me because I feel like we have great people, but there were no complaining, there were no, "Oh, I don't, da, da, da." They did what they had to do. They did the work. They came in. I was there to support because I was sending out messages with them. You order pizza, have it get to their house or something, so they eat
Oh,
still.
that's
But
great.
yeah, but it's I say it's surprising, but it's not surprising because they know that we're about pleasing the customer satisfaction. They know that I'm going to make sure they're taken care of when they do that. So surprised because of the fact that we had to do that. but it was great. There was no complaining, no backlash, no, oh, well, look, I need a $10,000 raise because I did this. You know what I mean? It was,
Yeah.
they knew that we're going to do this for you and not let you fail, Robin, because of it. So that was great.
That's an interesting phrasing that you just had. We're not going to let you fail, Robin.
Right. And they look at it somewhat like, yeah,
Yeah?
exactly, exactly. And I've worked for, before I started my own company, I've worked for smaller companies where I felt like loyal to the CEO because it was so small that you wanted to make sure they didn't fail, which means, we all don't fail, but you do
Right.
consider it that person's company really a lot. We're not the big tens where, you don't know the CEO's name, right?
Right, right, right. Well, and I love it sounds like in that moment the culture that you had built,
Yes.
the trust that you had created, that you had cultivated with your team really paid off.
Oh yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying exactly. Right. They really, it's almost like a mother and a child. You want to protect them. Your kid wants to make sure you're protected. So I think that you get that. People don't use family, but the family dynamic almost. I always try to. I know people are far away, but we always try to do something once a year, like a picnic, a barbecue. Bring your family and friends because we work all day. You got to still give gratitude to the husband or wife that's home watching the kid while you're doing something on a case. You want to make
Right.
sure they know what they do, how much they give to the company, and we appreciate them for supporting, the work that they do.
That's very, I mean, do you feel like that's unique in your industry? The IT technology industry has a
Yeah,
reputation for being kind of cold.
cold and yeah, just cold. Yeah,
Does that feel unique to you?
I think it's not unique to small. To be honest with you, with smaller companies, it's not unique. I don't think so. But when you get to that certain size, and I can understand why a little bit too, but it gets a little harder to have that pulse on it that close. I
Mm.
mean, you have to be realistic that if someone's in California, they may not be able to make every event you do. But I think that the way I came up, I worked for a lot of small companies, big ones too, but a lot of small companies. And we do, happy hours after work or dinners with the family and things. So those were greatly appreciated, and that's where I learned it from. I appreciated, I really liked that. So, and it made me feel part of the culture of the organization. So,
Yeah.
so I try to give it back in my organization as well.
So you started ESI in 2008, am I right?
2008, correct?
Okay.
Hmm.
Um, when you think about your personal journey as a founder of the business, as the leader of the business, and then as a leader of the team, talk a little bit about how you feel like you personally have grown.
Me personally, well, I definitely have grown because I used to me at least, right? Because I was started off as a coder myself, doing my thing. But I think I've grown on the people side too. I think I'm very people oriented, but then there's difference when you have to be the manager, the CEO, as well as someone's friend, quote unquote. There's a line where you gotta watch that because they want to be careful with that. But I always want them to know that hey, if because I've had work with women where they have children, they're sick, right?
Yeah.
It shows me how to be like, okay, okay, it's okay. You can give a bereavement, or you give an extra day off, you give certain things off. But when you're a manager or you are working, sometimes you're like slaving. You're doing things, you're just making it happen. But as I've grown, I see I get more from my people when I give them, that humanistic part of it, right? So for me, I mean, I've always been a people person, but leading is very different. It is very different. You have so many different personalities, so many different characteristics. I had to learn that I can't treat Susan the same as I treat Kim.
Right.
That was one thing I really had to learn how to do. That one person loves a team picnic, the other one never comes. But that doesn't mean they don't like
Right.
their atmosphere. You have to figure out what makes that person tick.
But at
So
the
those are
same,
things.
it's interesting because at the same time, you can't treat one person the same way you treat another person.
No,
But
not at all.
from a management HR perspective, you have to
Right,
treat
right,
everybody the
right,
same.
right,
So
right.
so
This, yeah,
it's really a tight,
it's a balance. It's a balance,
almost an
right?
art form at that point.
Yeah, and I think that you have to learn that HR, what they give you are guidances of what you need to do, but how you execute that guidance is where you have the flexibility to do a little bit different for this person, a little bit different for that person, right? To make
Yeah.
things so that to make people feel like, oh, I'm just not being heard.
Right. with 85 people, I'm just super curious. With 85 staff members, it's actually possible for you to know all of them. I mean,
If
it's
we
a
were on
lot
the
of
same
people.
building, yeah, yeah. And this is the thing. In the time when we were all in that same building located, I could have really no, though. That's Peter. That's William. That's Michael.
Right,
Whatever,
right.
But now that we're spread all over the place, what we do is, I've been on Zoom. Like even when they start orientation, I get on Zoom and we try to encourage people to have their cameras on because once you put a face to things, it makes them a little more humanistic too,
Oh
with a
yeah.
big R behind the name. So I mean, I can't say that when I walk down the street, I'll know, oh, that's that person. But I've seen them on screens. I try to I do an open door policy where that if you do want to, I've had people email me. I don't know if they knew I was a CEO or not. Oh, my time card, I can't get in. I'm like, okay, let me help you. We're still at that level where I can still do
Yeah.
those things though. And then they see my thing come back, say CEO or president. They go, oh, thank you, Robin. I appreciate it. So I do know them because I usually when people on board, part of our onboarding process, they see me. I'm part of the meetings, and then if the manager has a weekly meeting with them, once a month I try to jump in. I try to, come in and say, hey, to let them know if they're doing a great job because
Yeah.
usually they are, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well,
so that's how we know them.
and it's that human connection,
Yeah.
back to the human side of
Yes.
things, but that human connection greases the wheels for all the
Yeah.
transactional stuff,
Yeah. It
right?
definitely does. It definitely does. Yeah. You can have the most technical person. But when you sit there and speak to them, they love that you listen,
Right.
right? I have a guy on my team's great, knows all coding, but when I reach out to them, particularly for something, to ask them and thank them and appreciate, he say, "Oh, anytime, Rob." You could feel that they appreciate the energy, that you appreciate the work. He appreciates the work that he does, right? That I
Right.
appreciate that for him. Yeah,
So I hear a lot about in what you're saying. I hear a lot about how you've learned new things. You've learned how to be a better manager and a better leader. When you were a coder, though,
yeah,
shifting from because it's a very different.
yeah.
I mean, to say it's different is not giving it
Yeah,
enough credit.
yeah,
It's
yeah. When you're
shockingly
coding, yeah,
different.
it's yeah. Because all you
What
have to do is worry about making your deadline, right? When you
Well,
code on
and
you.
coding is a very uh, inward kind of thing.
Yeah,
I am not a coder, but I would think that it's
yeah.
a very inward thing. Like it's writing. I,
Right, right.
I
Exactly,
I'm
exactly.
not if
Yeah.
I'm going to write something, I don't want a lot of people around me. I want to focus.
Right, right, right. Writing or reading a book, either way, you
Yeah.
really want to just make sure it's your relationship to that code there.
So
But when your leader is different, yeah.
what is it that you had the hardest time giving up as you became a leader?
So, so for me, I think it's reversed a little bit. The hardest part was coding because I am a talker. I'm a people person. So
Okay.
this whole, so for me, it was easier to direct becoming a team lead and leader because the hardest part about that was making sure with a schedule, right? That Paul's going to get his done at in the right time so that Lucy can put her part to it.
Right.
So understanding the schedule and making sure your people make their deadlines, that's the hardest part about, to me about leading because, they'll tell you, as a program manager, you have to say, okay, if he tells me 5 days, let me put down 7 just in case. Cause so for me, the hardest part was the reverse though. Sitting in a silo, just coding was like almost torture for me
Oh,
sometimes because
okay.
I gotta have music in the background, I have to talking or something because maybe it's the ADD in me, I don't know. But so it was much easier becoming up more and the leading part of it was better for
Okay.
me.
I'm going to point out you've got swag on, and
Yes, in this way.
I don't love that ESI to talk about Educology Solutions,
Hmm.
and it makes me think and I don't know how many of our listeners understand government contracting with IT, but a lot of times a contract means the person that you employ
Right.
is
Hmm.
sitting in the office of somebody else, of some
Yes,
government
correct.
office, and they will often feel, and I know this from
Yeah,
my
obligate to
government
there.
experience, they're going to often feel more a part of that office
Right,
than of
right,
your
right,
organization.
right. Hmm.
What is
Exactly.
the I guess I have multiple questions about that.
What do we do?
Is that a bad thing, or is what's the balance there for as you see the
Yeah.
important balance?
Right. Yeah, and there are various different contracts. You can have one that's staff augmented where it's just one person over there and you want them to feel part of that team, right? You do want them to feel a part of the government or whoever they're working with team.
Right.
Because I think that makes them feel like, oh, I can ask a question, no question is dumb or whatever, right? But you also still, it's a balance because they still, like for me, I want them to know they really work for me, ESI, the company here. And we do that because part of our goal is that we have to, not have to, but I encourage though, to go down to the site, right? If they're on site, go over there once, once every twice a month, take them out to lunch,
Mm.
see how things are
That
going.
you would,
So
that you'll do that.
yeah, I'll do it too as well. Definitely, I'm small enough still to do that. Yeah, so I just went down and had lunch with some of my people for just about a month ago, right? Actually, on one of my contracts, and I think they enjoy that too, especially when they see the CEO come
Yeah.
down there. But myself and the program manager, I make sure the program manager, if it's not me, it's the program manager. They'll go and do that, and also too, you have to have a good relationship with the customer, right? You want to know that we're partners here, that we're both kind of the mommy and daddy of these people. We both want the best for our employees because then we'll both get the best results. They'll get a
Right.
great product. We'll have great employees. We'll get great reviews. So it's you have to be conscious about it. You have to make it intentional,
Right.
right?
Well,
You
it
can't.
also
It's very
strikes me that it
intentional.
might be two birds with one stone kind of thing. It's like you're building a relationship with your staff person
I
who's
said,
sitting
yeah.
in that seat in the office of your client, but while you're doing that, you're building a
Make a
relationship with
relationship.
your
Yes,
client.
exactly, exactly. And the client likes that too. The client, I mean, most clients, if they're really a, you know, to me, a good client, they want to make sure that you're there taking care of your people, right? And that you're there taking care of them. So if they never see you, they wonder, wait, do you even care about your people? Do
Yeah.
you even care about I don't want to talk to them only when something's going wrong. You need to be there when things are good, when things are great, and then so then when things may slip up, that they have a little bit of empathy for you, a little bit of kindness in handling the situation.
Right. Now, I think that goes back to what you said earlier about building relationships and about how relationship building is the
It's
key
key.
to pretty
It's key.
much everything you do.
It's key. You catch more bees with honey, right? All that stuff, right?
I mean,
Yeah.
even if you're a coder and that's all you do, you still need a relationship, a good
Oh
relationship
yeah.
with the person who's telling you what
Oh
to
yeah.
code,
Oh yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
right?
Because you got to make sure your communication flows
Right.
right. Right. You may tell me to code this box, but I hear you saying rectangle. You need to be able to communicate that.
Right.
We saying sort of the same shape, but it is really different.
And having and building not enough trust with your team for them to come back and ask you more
Exactly.
clarifying questions and challenge
Exactly.
you when you need to be challenged, right?
Exactly. Oh yeah. Of course. Of
That
course.
that that's all part of that relationship building piece
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Definitely, definitely. I
Okay.
mean, there's some people on my team I talk to enough that I'm kind of like their mentor now. They'll come to me, Robin, and there's nothing more, satisfying to know that people trust you like
Yeah.
that. They want to be, they trust that you're giving them good advice or good leadership, good guidance.
I want to follow up on that. As a mentor leader, what's the balance between allowing a staff person to figure something out and giving them the answer?
Oh yeah, well, it's almost like psychiatrists, right? We never tell you what to do, but you're
Well, a
trying to
lot of
give them
leaders do
right.
tell you
Yeah,
what to
right,
do.
yeah. And it's but I think that you really can't do that a lot, or you shouldn't rather, because what works for me may not work for you. I have a young lady who has children. She's trying to figure out, just it wasn't even work related. Should I put them in private school or not? And I can give them my experience on that, right?
Right.
Sometimes it's good, sometimes, and you give both scenarios, and you tell them, you have to figure out what really works best for you and your family, and what's good for you all. So I don't try to tell people what to do. Definitely don't, But and which is going on big now. A lot of times we have contractors. They may want to go to government because they get recruited by the government to go
Sure.
there. I'm a firm believer you have to do what's best for your family. I would love you, a great coder for me, you do whatever. Hey, I would love for you to stay. But I always tell them, but if this was what's best for your family, by all means, you need to do that. Because that's inevitably, the best thing for your family. Because if I have to cut, unfortunately, which happens sometimes, I have to cut. So we
Right.
all have to all take whatever advice I give or whatever, conversation we have and take it back to your household and say, hey, these are some thought processes here. These are some things we can do. So, yeah.
Yeah. And it feels like something that occurred to me many years ago when I was managing an office, and my director said it to me. She said, neither one of us are going to be here in 5 years.
Right. Right.
And what she meant by that was, everybody moves on.
Yeah.
Unless, I mean,
Right.
very few people are going to retire working for you, right? And so what do you do in that case? Because I've seen leaders get really upset when someone leaves,
Oh yeah.
or
That.
or
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
take it really personally.
Personal, yeah, and that's the thing right there. Like I told you, that coach told me you can't take things personally all the time. You can't take them personally. You go home and say, "Dang, I hate that person that gone." Not hate that person, but hate that they're leaving. I hate that's gone. But and this is a bad. I mean, like it's kind of crazy to say, but I always model ever since 9/11 happened. You never know what's going to happen. You got to keep on. You got to keep on, right? Those who pass regret, hate, and sad, but the next day the world keeps existing. So
Yeah.
I look at everything like tomorrow's another day. We have to still figure out how to still maintain. How do we still keep going? So I definitely never get mad. I mean,
Yeah.
managers do that. Then you're teaching and you're leading to just one person instead of the team,
Right.
the goal. And you can't do that. You can't depend on that.
Because your
Yeah,
responsibility is to each person, but it's to all of them at the same
exactly.
time.
At the end of the day, and to that person, their responsibility is to them and their family. Bottom line.
Right.
That's how I look at it, and the more you grow, the more that I may not even be able to come down to the site, and I bring my program manager there sometimes. Things, that's why you have to know that everyone's valuable, but they have to do what's best for their families and
Yeah.
their
And,
lives.
and allowing that and allowing for that in your philosophy and
You
your
have to allow,
management
yes,
approach, probably, ironically, leads to more people staying with you longer.
exactly. And one thing I think that we try to do at our company, we try to offer a lot of training, a lot of growth when we have it. We have other opportunities, and it's hard in contracting world a lot because you are contract to a contract. But we try to work with them to know, okay, if a contract's ending in 6 months, we're going to work with you to try to find you another spot somewhere else, another place to go. So I think that's what we try to give to our people.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in not trying to tell somebody, a day before, a week before that, hey, your contract's ending. I don't think that's fair. And I think what happens is they treat you in respect too. They'll say, okay, Robin, I have another job, but I told them I can't start till this date because I don't want to leave you hanging for, the
Yeah.
last 2 weeks. So you get that respect
And
both
that's the
ways.
power of that relationship building component,
Yeah,
right? That's
definitely.
where it really
Definitely.
comes down and means something, like in
Exactly.
a transactional way,
In a transactional
right?
way. Exactly. Exactly. Because they can easily say, okay, I'm out of here. I'm
Well, so,
done.
and
I
so
never
could
signed
you.
a thing.
You could easily say the contract's over, got to
Exactly.
cut.
Exactly. Exactly.
But that doesn't make you, one, it doesn't make you feel good. I don't think you're that
Doesn't
kind
make
of
you feel good.
person.
No, definitely doesn't make you feel
But
good.
it's
Right.
also really, really good for your
Yeah.
team culture, for your and in that way for your business
Right.
model in the
Exactly.
long run.
Exactly. It really does. Yeah. It definitely does. Yeah. No one wants to put anybody in a bad situation. I remember the first time when this wasn't even my own company, but I was working for another company, but I was a manager and I had to tell them that their contract was ending or something. They
Yeah.
had to be let go. And I literally like was holding back tears while we're talking to them. And when they left, I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and it just it's not something you really just ever feel good about having
Well,
to
and
do that.
it's like I'm trying to think of a metaphor, but it's like I can build this model, and it's really hard. The relationship building is a lot harder than the transactional.
Oh yeah,
The
because it's a human
transactional is
partner, right?
easy,
Yeah, exactly. 1 + 1 is 2. You
but
can
you
do that all
can't
day.
do, or the transactional is not going to last very long if you don't have that good relationship building
Yeah,
piece. I mean,
exactly,
do you
exactly.
think, I mean, you've survived, let me just point out, the 2008 economy,
Right.
as well
Yeah.
as uh,
COVID and
COVID,
the administration with all the changes in contracts now. We're trying to, yeah,
and you've only done that. In fact, I'm sure COVID is this way. In 2008,
yeah,
you were just yourself for a while, I suppose.
right.
But COVID, you survived COVID, I'm
Yeah,
sure, because of the strength of your culture.
yeah, Yeah, definitely had a lot to do with it. Definitely did. And then even too knowing, like I said, we got a coach when you feel like it was a strain on things. Knowing that and seeing that is huge. It's
That's,
huge, you know. And I tell you, it definitely was needed. Um, COVID just took everybody for a change,
yeah,
you know, and how to. Some people work extra hard. Some people you couldn't find online, you know. So you have to figure out how to manage everything. To be
yeah.
honest, yeah.
Well, I love that you're giving a shout out to your coach. I think that's awesome.
Yes,
Um,
Lori Evans is her name.
Lori
So you
Evans.
know,
Okay.
Lori Evans. Yes, she's great. She's wonderful. Yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Coaching is a very it's an underutilized and not well understood
Yeah.
tool, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
glad. Are you still using her?
Yeah. We're trying to convert it now. Now I want to use it for my personal, you know, CEO growth,
Yeah.
but now I want to actually use it now more for the whole company because because I think that as you grow, you have the growing pains and the things I don't hear, she'll help be able to bring that out. So
Right. No,
definitely,
that's awesome.
we're restructuring how we're going to do it now.
That's awesome.
Hmm.
That's awesome. I'm so glad you're still working with her because
Yeah.
that's a real testament to how good she is, and
Yeah.
to
She's
how
very.
and to your commitment to it.
And my team, they were committed to it as well, right? Because we've always had such a great bond, and we
Yeah.
know we don't want to lose that. You
Yeah.
know, it's almost say it's no fun being the richest one in the room, and I'm not not the richest in the room, but being the richest in the room and no one else to share it with, right?
Right.
There's no,
Right.
yeah. So
What is something that you're building toward that most people aren't seeing yet?
what are we building towards? It's so weird because it's every day is a challenge now. What
Mm,
so for me, what was different, and a lot of CEOs are probably like this. I was a working CEO for a long time, right? You know, because you can't just stop working and do it. So I'm building towards to truthfully elevate ESI and myself to be that CEO because I'm no longer on a contract specifically. How to make our leadership get to that level where we really are at that where we can grow to now it's at 150 right personnel, that 300 personnel.
yeah.
So that really is like you said, the humanistic part of it, knowing where the gaps are and knowing where to fill those gaps, understand where I fit in even more now, to be honest with you, because I'm not just on project,
Right.
and I don't want to go down and say, okay, now I'm gonna go in here and take over BD. That doesn't work either.
Yeah.
You still have to know your role, the strategic part of the organization. So strategically, myself and my business partner, my BD person, we're trying to work to do that strategic growth.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I mean, because that's the part of growth where you go from being on the contract to being indirect, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. It's
right.
yes.
You
Yes.
become overhead.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's the scary part. You're like, oh my God, now I'm overhead, right? So
That's
yeah, I gotta
awesome.
make a difference. Yes. Yeah, right. So
Well,
finding your place is real. It's finding is
it
real.
is, and it is real. And the bigger you get, the more you grow,
Right.
the
Right.
challenges become different, but they also, but they stay, and they become much more. I don't know how to
Yeah.
say this.
It's almost like
I'm
most
gonna have to
companies. I've
edit
worked
this
at
part,
companies
but I mean,
where
as you
they,
grow, it's
yeah.
going to
No, no, no.
become
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
more personal in a way.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because you have to make that decision. Even if you work with big companies, they bring CEOs for certain phases of your organization. That's where you have to know. Okay, can I take my organization to that next level? And now I
Right,
need that board more. I need those things that you bring in a CEO for selling maybe, or you bring them,
right,
to acquire. So that's where you do have to make those tough decisions to know where we are in, at the level of we are at our company at this time and moment.
right. Well, I wish you great things in your future, in the future
Thank
of
you.
Educology Solutions. And I'm really, really excited that you decided to come on the podcast today. And
Definitely am excited.
I can't wait to see what you guys do in the future.
Yeah, same to you. Congratulations on your podcast. I can't wait to see all
I
your
know
future
I'm excited about
interviews.
it.
I am too. I love these things. It's like, and this is a whole world that we have to get used to too. We were old school. We once watched TV. Now it's
Right,
these
right.
podcasts, right?
Oh,
So,
I'm a young man. Yes. No.
yeah, yeah. I know you are. You're hip to this. See, this is your podcast, right? There you go. So good luck to you
Well,
too. Very
thank you
much good
very
luck to
much,
you.
Robin. I appreciate it. And we'll
Thank
talk to
you.
you soon.
Okay. Have a great day.
And that's it for this episode of Leading Through Growth. I want to thank Robin again for such an honest and grounded conversation about leadership, connection, and the long view. If something she said resonated with you, I hope you'll share this episode with a friend or leave a review. And if you want to keep up with Robin or learn more about ESI, check the show notes for links. Until next time, I'm Tom Campbell, CEO of Stella Nova Coaching, and this has been Leading Through Growth, where we keep showing up at the intersection of purpose, progress, and people.